Welcome to another All-Star Talk Dragon Ball. Haven't done one of these in a while where I get multiple Dragon Ball community All-Stars to talk about something that's very, very big and important. And on this video, we've already previously on All-Star Talk Dragon Ball talked about the Battle of Gods and the Resurrection F arcs, and we actually did a scene-by-scene comparison between the movie and between the anime version of the events. Well, on All-Star Talk Dragon Ball today, we're going to talk about the Universe 6 / God of Destruction Champa arc, and since there's no movie, rather than just talk about comparing the movie versus the series, we're going to just talk about the actual events within the series. So, and what happened and kind of give our thoughts now. All of us have individual reviews on our channels for every episode, but with this, we're going to try and talk about kind of now that's been a few weeks, not a couple weeks. Now we can kind of sit back and, kind of really analyze this and determine whether or not this was a good or a bad arc and what we liked and what we didn't like. So, let me introduce our panel. First of all, my regular Talk Dragon Ball co-host, the guy who founded this series with me. Please welcome from Space Australia, the sexy Super Jaiyan.
Thanks for having me. I'm just some random Australian guy who loves Dragon Ball, for those of you that aren't familiar with me.
Why
Thanks
do
for
you
having me on the
say
channel.
why do you say thanks for having me if you're always the co-host on Talk Dragon Ball?
Well, it just seems polite. I like to be polite when I am still a guest on your channel, regardless if I co-host this segment. I am still a guest, and it's great to always be on your channel.
Well, much like my asshole, it belongs to you too. So
Thank you.
all right, well, joining Jay and I, the original YouTube tag team, really in many ways. First, let me introduce a guy who's been on the previous two All-Star Talk Dragon Balls. He's back with us again, Quaman. Alrighty, guys.
Hello there, beautiful friends. It's Quaman.
Speaking of beautiful friends, I want to introduce beautiful friends. He is beautiful and he is our friend. Really a guy who needs no introduction and who is a super, super hardcore fan of Dragon Ball, and he will fight that with you until he dies.
Yeah.
That is true.
Don't I know it? Don't I know it?
I
Brother-
am a Dragon Ball fanboy, and I mean, there's no really need to deny it. I mean, I can't deny it. If I deny it, I'll be obviously lying. I'm a fanboy of the series, and yeah.
Yeah,
After,
and-
What else can I say?
long arguments with Juan, I can definitely tell you that he is a Dragon Ball fanboy. Maybe even more so than me.
he is.
Oh, I'm the biggest fanboy there is, man. Seriously.
Yeah, you were one
Hey,
of the
man,
biggest.
I love like this Dragon Ball shit. Like, Geekdom can tell you how much I freak out over things that don't matter, like ratings. Even though
He faps to it.
Dragon Ball, oh yeah, like when Dragon Ball Super gets a high rating, that makes me a little bit excited.
The flagpole is at full salute.
Yeah, well, it's funny because most Mexicans freak out if you even touch their kids. Black and Fish freaks out if you touch Dragon Ball.
Oh yeah.
It's the same thing. All right, so God of Destruction Champa arc. All right, we got leaks for this thing last year, from the manga, and the arc very quickly caught up with the manga and even passed it right around March or so. We're going to be covering Dragon Ball Super episodes 28 to 41 because I believe, and the title card will tell you, thank you for that, Jay, that episode 42 begins a new arc, which I think is kind of an in-between arc. I don't want to use the word filler because I don't know if it really is filler or not, but it's an in-between arc, kind of slice of life-esque episodes.
Padding would be the right word, because filler is obviously constitutes stuff that's not in the manga, and the manga is the adaptation of this anime. So yeah, I think padding would be the correct word to use.
Yeah, well, not to mention that, in addition to that, we don't even know if it's going to be in the manga. Like, it might or may not be.
Yep.
So,
yeah.
So I want to talk about initially, all right, the way it's going to work with this video is I'm going to go break down this saga into clusters, and then I want to get everybody's roundtable thoughts on it. So the first thing I want to talk about is the introduction of Champa to the Dragon Ball universe. First couple of episodes, I really want to cover kind of episodes 28 through 30 just quickly here, but mostly focus on the introduction of Champa as well as the the rules, and not the rules, but so much more so like how the tournament was established, so to speak. Because Ciampa on episode 28 for me quickly became my favorite character. I love the guy. He's so charismatic. He is such a lovable guy. His relationship with Beerus is hilarious. I absolutely love Ciampa. I'm going to start with Black and Fist on this one. What were your initial impressions of Ciampa, and what do you think? How do you think they handled it in the anime?
I like, first of all, yeah, I agree with you. I think Ciampa's character is a good addition to the series. That kind of insecure, to me, he seems like he has an inferiority complex. Maybe I'm reading too much into that, but Ciampa is an all-around good character. I like him being dumb, although I do have problems when it comes to the plot. In story, even though you could say his dumbness is in character and everything, I do think that it causes problems with the overall arc but I guess I'll talk about that later. Ciampa character is a good contrast to Beerus, which is essentially what I would imagine this is why Toriyama came up with Ciampa in the first place. And also Vados. Vados less so because like Vados, like Whis, she doesn't seem to talk much, or she's very silent, just like Whis, which maybe would have been maybe better if Vados was more like energetic and enthusiastic to contrast more with Whis. But oh well. Overall,
she is more chill, yeah.
She is more reserved. She's reserved, but so is Whis. So I think Ciampa does serve as a good contrast to Beerus, but in a way they kind of are similar, as both of them are kind of obviously full of themselves. I think that Ciampa it's almost like Ciampa likes to pretend he has really big shoes, while Beerus has those big shoes. He doesn't have to fake it. While Ciampa, I feel, has a little bit of faking in him, but overall, I think he's a good addition.
Yeah, you're saying he's a little insecure.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that too about him. Quinn, man, whatever the fuck. Your initial reactions on Ciampa.
Yeah, you fuck. You fuck. Well, answer the question.
Well, initially, geekdom/daddy. I always wanted to say that I thought that Ciampa was an interesting character because, he's obviously the anti-Beerus. And I remember Geekdom, I'm sure we remember, like, before Ciampa was officially released, we talked on end about how much people were speculating, like, how he's gonna blow up Earth, and people were looking at his smile and how he was holding, like, the Earth at his fingertips, and all these guys are saying, oh, like, he's this evil Beerus.
And he didn't. Beerus, yes.
He didn't. His initial appearance, it didn't necessarily feel like he was evil, just kind of stubborn, and he kind of wants himself, kind of selfish in his own way, but not necessarily a completely bad guy. And if there was something I would add about Ciampa, I would definitely feel like his personality did not pan out the way a lot of fans, including myself, were even speculating him to be.
Yeah, and I think it actually worked out for the better that he was like that, in my opinion. Jay, what were your initial reactions on the debut of Ciampa, how it was handled, and also I want to throw an extra one in there. In comparison to the manga, did you like the extra stuff that we saw here?
Overall, I think Ciampa's introduction was solid in the anime and the Toyotarou manga. I do slightly prefer some elements of both. I like the best thing for me about Ciampa is obviously similar to what Black and Fist said, and that is the dynamic between Beerus and Ciampa and how they get along. And I was really unsure of whether they really hated each other or not, and they kind of do, but it's sort of a love-hate relationship with those two. And I think that's apparent in the way that Beerus would care about Ciampa enough by the fact that he did restore Universe 6's Earth after the tournament. So there obviously is a bit of love there between the two brothers. But I think my favorite thing about Ciampa is not necessarily the character himself, because he is, in a lot of aspects, he's still similar to Beerus in a lot of ways. He's got the real arrogance about him. He knows he's stronger than pretty much most of the people he comes across. The most interesting things about Ciampa is when we get to see him spend time with Beerus on screen for me. So his initial introduction, yes, it was interesting to see, but I still felt that he just felt like another version of Beerus to me, and that's essentially what he is. He just, like, I felt like when Ciampa was introduced to the series, I kind of already knew who he was. I didn't know exactly what his role would be, but because his design and appearance was so similar to Beerus, and he had another, version of Whis with him, I thought, well, he's probably another god of destruction. A lot of us surmise that without it even being told to us. My favorite thing about him is probably the food competition between the two and the dynamic, and just the fact that
it's
they exchange
gods arguing over foods.
Food, yeah, that is the best thing about those characters for me, because when people argue about which one's more powerful, Beerus and Champa, it's kind of inconsequential to me because they're both gods of destruction and they're both more powerful than 95% of the characters in the series probably. So I definitely don't really care about that aspect as much because I know they're powerful. I just care more about the definitely the if I can say it, the brotherly love and hate, the sibling rivalry. That's my favorite thing about Champa, is now it's brought in a sibling rivalry between Beerus and himself.
Okay, now before we go any further, can we all agree that episode 30, the clip show, was probably the worst episode of the whole series? Can we agree with that?
Oh, definitely.
Yes. That in episode
Yes.
5. That in episode 5.
Yeah, I actually think that was worse. And me and Kwame, man, were talking the other night off air about like some of the times in Dragon Ball Z when they did this, like Dragon Ball Z episode 105 or episodes 190, which is when they basically recapped the big portions of the arc, one for Frieza, one for Cell. The only reason why that worked out better is because it was at the end of the arc. What pissed me off about episode 30 was the fact that it was 2 episodes into the damn arc. They're recapping shit that happened 2 episodes prior. Like, what the fuck? It's just horrible. Like, man, it pissed me off. But other than the recap stuff, all right, I want to talk real quick about the early tournament. Not the fights, but more so the recruitment process. I want to talk about... they recruited Majin Buu, they recruited Piccolo, they mentioned Oob, which surprised a lot of people, and I want to talk also about the episode where Bulma goes off with Janko to meet Zuno. Okay, I'm going to start with Kwame this time. Did you like the recruitment? Did you think that it made it? I know that Piccolo's your boy, but did you think it made any sense for him to enter this tournament without godly training? And that's the first question. Second question is, how did you feel about the Bulma Zuno filler? Or not? It's not really filler, but the prelude to the tournament.
Well, Geekdom, we already had some instances of the. This was at the point of the Super manga where like the manga was kind of ahead. So I kind of felt that the anime actually had a more unique interpretation of the whole thing when they met Zuno, because of the fact that when you see characters moving around and acting in action, it's significantly more entertaining and more flexible than what you could do in a manga panel. And I definitely could see, the whole thing that Zuno was talking about, Bulma's breast size. I felt that the anime added significantly more than what the manga was trying to portray. And I also think that Bulma and Jaco have good anti-chemistry, if you know what I mean. They play off of each other well to entertain the fans.
I agree.
And in terms of,
and we saw Tights, which I know is one of your favorite characters. Great character, right, Quinn?
I'm sure you love. I'm sure you love her name too, by the way. But
hey, Quinn, Amir Khan did real good against Canelo, right?
Excellent. I'm sure Black and Fist would agree.
Oh, Amir Khan did exactly what he was pretty much put in the ring to do.
But on the other note, I was gonna say,
what was the better right hand, Monaka to hit or Canelo to Khan's? What I want to know, bro.
They were about as predictable as
and about as realistic.
Yeah, about.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Quinn, bro.
No. I was just gonna say that in terms of the whole recruiting process, I felt that it was kind of cheap, but we kind of knew what was going to happen, where like the whole Majin Buu thing. I just kind of felt that Majin Buu, if he was even engaged in the tournament, I think he's just a little too immature to be taken seriously. I mean, if you just look at him, I mean, he's like a fat pink blob that turns people into chocolate that's just stronger than a lot of people from the Buu saga and before. So I felt that the recruitment process was kind of cheap. I kind of wish they had brought in Gohan in. I thought it would have been interesting, and then they immediately took him out. I was obviously happy about the whole Piccolo thing, but I wasn't happy about something else that happened later on that we'll discuss later on in this video, I'm sure.
We will.
But pretty much I thought the recruitment process could have been done better in terms of picking a better pool of characters that could actually do something.
Now, for Juan, I actually want to kind of twist it a little bit for you. Okay, as a Gohan fan, we all thought, well, not all of us, a lot of us assumed that Gohan was going to come back at some point or another in this tournament, either at the end as a surprise, or maybe something was going to happen on Earth while the tournament was going on. Gohan was virtually gone from this entire arc, with the exception of the one training thing with Piccolo. How do you feel about that? And I also want to get your thoughts on these episodes and the whole Zuno thing. Do you think that Zuno was good world building, or do you think we'll see him again? But first, the Gohan question.
Gohan, oh boy, that's probably one of the biggest complaints I have about this arc. Now, I'm not saying that Gohan should have been part of the team. Maybe it would have been better if he was instead of Majin Buu. I think that would have been more interesting, since Gohan is a character that more fans are invested in. But I also, one thing I feel is that in the Resurrection F arc, one of the things that led into this arc, or what was supposed to, I think it was pretty easily was supposed to be written into this arc, is that there was more development for Gohan's character when he saw the planet being blown up. He had all these things about, he started to think that, maybe completely neglecting fighting isn't a good idea. He saw Piccolo die, which I don't think that situation was particularly great, but the good part about it is they used it for character development. They used the planet blowing up, and then at the end he started training again.
So it gave everybody high hopes.
It would have been great if they took that development into the next arc, but what did they do? They cut the rope on it. They completely didn't do anything with it. It was like, why show us this when you were not going to lead up to anything anyway? At first I was not as angry. At first, when I was seeing that, okay, I was like, fine, Gohan isn't gonna fight. But as the tournament went on, and as we saw those little shots of the audience of Bulma, Trunks, Jaco, the Kais, all of them, I started to get really pissed. I'm like, why the fuck is Gohan not there at the very least?
I don't get it.
Why is he need that? It's literally like Toriyama said, "Fuck you, Gohan." Fuck it. You know what? Yes, I'm being a little bit fanboy, but I never say that with the Buu saga. But every time, it's not like it wasn't every time. It was like gradually as the arc went on. I didn't feel like this in the beginning, but it's like every single time it was like, you know what? I wish Gohan was there. You know what? Wouldn't have been a good idea for at least Gohan to be in a spectating. By the end, I was like, fuck this arc for not having Gohan at the very least in the crowd.
Yeah.
So it was a gradual thing for me, honestly.
Yeah, I do want to say one thing before you keep going about the Zuno thing, just real quick. When we're doing our reviews week to week, right? What people have to understand is that, and Zeon's actually been pretty critical about this, saying he's right. We're doing like somewhat reactions. We can't really analyze every episode because Dragon Ball is not an anthology series. It is a serialized series, right? So we can react to how cool the individual episode is without looking at the big picture, because when we're watching this show, we don't know what the big picture is yet. So if you're a Gohan fan or a Vegeta fan or a fan of anybody, you're watching this arc and you're kind of just going through the motion saying, okay, let's see where it goes, see where it goes, see where it goes. The fact that Gohan did nothing is bad writing. I mean, it is bad writing because you're literally tickling the fan's dick in the last arc by having Gohan say, okay, I'm going to train.
And in the beginning of this arc, too.
Yeah, exactly. You're doing all this, and then all of a sudden he can't compete. And a lot of us were thinking, okay, well, he's going to show up as a surprise. Something's going to happen on Earth. He's going to get his own adventure, and we got none of it. So then you wonder, why would they even mention that Gohan is taking this seriously? Is it something for later? Maybe it is. Maybe I'm talking out of my ass too soon. But I think as of right now, it's bad writing for this arc. Now, Juan, I wanted to ask you about Zuno, and then I'm going to go to Jay. Will we see this character again? Did you like the world expansion with Jaco and Bulma? Because I did like that a lot. I actually really enjoyed that episode, and I want to see Zuno again. I hope he's not just a one-shot character, but what did you think?
Zuno, honestly, the best part of that episode for me was Jaco. Zuno, I mean, I wasn't thrilled about him. I thought he was okay. I mean, I'm okay with world building. He wasn't terrible or anything, but to be quite honest with you, maybe I'll have to see the episode again to really get it or anything. But I wasn't like ecstatic about Zuno. Honestly, to me, the best part of that episode was Jocko, and just seeing more Jocko. Honestly, so I mean, I wouldn't knock it if he came back. That'd be fine, but I wouldn't knock it if he never came back. Honestly, again. So
Let me ask you one last thing, bro. And I actually want to also forward this to Jay. Do you think it's dumb that we have a character like Zuno who's all knowing and knows things that the Supreme Kais, Kaioshin, Kaiosama, and even Whis don't know? Like, that's always somewhat bugged me. It doesn't bug me too much, okay? Because he's like the Yoda of that universe, or like the Maz Kanata, actually, because Maz Kanata's older than Yoda. Do you think it's weird that we have a character here, Zuno, who knows all this history that the Namekians don't know, or maybe they do know and they've been hiding it from us? We never saw the Book of Legends ever again, that we've just never heard before. Like, is it weird that as you called them, the celestial rulers, or whatever the hell you said in your Birds and the Bees, that they don't know, but this guy does? Is that weird?
I mean, I get,
It's like an
I
obvious
think it's
plot device.
well, yeah, I think that's I think the reason why I wasn't too ecstatic about him, because he was a plot device. He just seemed like a plot device to me, a plot device character. Um, as for him being weird that he actually knows this, I don't think it's that weird, honestly. Dragon Ball is a pretty wacky world. I think that it could be believable that a character like Zuno could exist. So I think I bought into that. I I think Whis, honestly, in the past, ever since Battle of Gods, has been a little weird to me in the terms of what he knows and doesn't know.
I agree. Very
Because
consistent.
yeah, like me and Kwame talked about this when Battle of Gods came out. Like, so to me, honestly, it didn't bother me too much. So, yeah.
All right, Jay, your thoughts on Zuno the All-Knowing? Did you like the episode? Did you like the Jocko world building and just the early kind of build up to this tournament?
To be honest, I think any time spent with Jocko is really, really good. And Jocko is he's such a great character. The way he was introduced to the Dragon Ball lore is kind of a shame, because it does kind of retcon, and yes, I can use that word here. It does retcon the start of Dragon Ball, which is a real shame.
Yeah, well, it's also a shame because most casuals didn't even know about Jocko at all until Resurrection.
Yeah,
They didn't even know anything.
Every time, for me, I love Jocko as a character. He is just a constant reminder of how, almost in a sense, Toriyama's original manga now it doesn't add up with what the story being told in Jocko is. So I really enjoy the time with Jocko. That's always in the back of my mind, though, is that, the TV special with Bardock and all that, it doesn't have as much meaning now, which kind of sucks. But in saying that, I do enjoy Jocko as a character. The time that he spends with Bulma, as Quinn mentioned, they do have a really, really good dynamic together. They argue. I love how Jocko is threatened by Bulma's husband, and that's kind of why he helps Bulma, because he knows that if he does, Bulma will use the threat of, I'll get my husband onto you, and I think that's a really, really interesting dynamic. Zuno, he's a bit of hit and miss. The thing about Zuno is he kind of was thrown at the audience out of nowhere. They didn't build him up. They didn't give us any indication that he was coming up. It was just, here's a guy who, in the middle of the universe, who knows, well, somewhere in the universe, and he knows everything, absolutely everything. You can ask him any question you want, and it's
how do the guys not know everything? It's their universe.
Yeah. So it's kind of, I dig the character, and I dig the planet that he's on, like the planet that looks like it's made out of candy and stuff. That was really, really cool. Yeah. That was cool. I love that. And the planet itself, the episode was really enjoyable. Like Jocko going after that fugitive, and he finally catches him. It was a really fun episode, and I do like the padding episodes in Super, because they do such a great job of spending time with the characters away from the fighting and the action. It's just really well done. But yeah, Zuno is a bit hit and miss. I feel like they should use him again, but I almost feel like at the same time they shouldn't, because you would need a pretty good reason to use him. So for that reason, I don't think he'll be brought back into the series, because unless there's like some question that they really need answering, which I don't think they will, based on what we know about the future of the series, he's kind of a wasted character, and he's really meaningless apart from that one episode, and that's kind of a shame. I really don't like, and I'm not saying this is the case, but I really don't like when any franchise in general, brings a character in for high relevance for one episode. I think it's just such a waste. So I certainly hope that's not the case, but I fear that that's what's going to happen with Zuno, and we won't see him again.
Yeah, now that I think about it, you're probably right. Now let's move on to the start of the tournament. Goku and Vegeta coming out of the Room of Spirit and Time with fighting in MMA gloves, wearing beards. I thought was awesome. Having everybody in the cube go over there, meeting the Universe 6 fighters, which we were all kind of excited about. And pretty much, the whole, we see that, Kaioshin, the Supreme Kai, is defused, which could be planting the seeds.
I just want to point out something.
Here he goes. That's
no,
number one so far, bro. But go ahead.
Wait. I just need to point something out because it's something that I haven't heard anybody say. I actually dislike Goku and Vegeta's training in the hyperbolic time chamber.
Well, we only saw like 2 seconds of it.
No. Yes, but I'm not gonna. This is not a big point. I understand, but I actually dislike it because they're supposed to they're supposed to be on another level. They're supposed to pretty much be on God tier. This is extraordinary, and yet they're doing the same things we've seen them do throughout the series. I didn't like that. I think that clashes with where the story is going and where these characters are and their strengths. If they really are at a different level, do a different level of training. So I'm just gonna say I didn't like that whole thing of them training in the hyperbolic time chamber. I think that honestly was stupid. But
well, I thought it was stupid too because like Quinn calls it the cloudy dimension. They introduced the cloudy dimension, and you would think that would be the new place to train. But I think now that we look at the arc being over, it's actually even dumber. They were in there for 3 years. They couldn't master their forms yet. They're still unstable, I guess. And Goku does the Kaioken, which he probably picked up from in there, and they still can't surpass Beerus. I just have a hard time swallowing, pun intended, that Goku and Vegeta have not even come close to surpassing Beerus now. After 3 years, it's not computing in my head. It doesn't make sense to me. I'm just saying, all right? And then we saw the Kai's.
I know this is a tangent, but you brought it up. I mean, to be just in the defense
we're
of
going to
Super.
talk about it, yeah. Go ahead.
Just in the defense of Super, I mean, technically, Super itself, because you're talking about Toriyama's comments, but Super itself has not stated whether or not Beerus is still stronger or Goku and Vegeta surpassed him. It's ambiguous as far as Super is concerned, strictly. So,
Champa did say, I don't care about, SS God or Time Skip. Nobody can fuck with me. He pretty much said that, and if nobody can fuck with him, they can't fuck with Beerus either. That's the way I always saw it.
Yeah, it's true. I mean,
it's just it's still implied that they still don't have a chance, And why is Monaka? Go ahead.
There's nothing straight up. There's nothing like concrete. I'm just saying.
Well, okay. I want to go through like the early tournament here, and then we're going to talk about Hit like near the end. I don't want to focus on each and every fight because we already have reviews on them, so I don't want to go through that. But like I said, the Supreme Kai's defused, right? Supreme Kai and Kibito or whatever, and we all thought, a lot of us think that that's foreshadowing of a possible fusion later on, because they're showing that with the Dragon Balls they can undo Kaioshin Potara fusion. However, with the Gohan thing, how they gave us that little dick tease and never delivered it, I'm starting to be skeptical. I'm starting to think that we're not going to see Vegito now. It's like now, the Universe 6 arc has kind of left a bad taste in my mouth, to be honest with you. I'm going to be very honest with you guys, because they have essentially done this thing where they're building these things up and they never deliver them. They build these things up and they don't deliver them. And now, as Dragon Ball fans, and we do it, but people in our community sometimes do it more than any of us do, where they sit there and they overanalyze and they nitpick everything. Quinn, we've talked about how you'll get people asking you, hey, Quinn, can you do a video dissecting a 10-second clip from the next episode? No, we can't do that. Because it's like, people want us to dissect everything, but now it's like, if this show were written better, we could probably talk about it. But because there's, the foreshadowing never goes anywhere, it's almost like it's just one piece of bad writing after the next. It's irritating. So, here's the next question. For you guys. Jay, do you have anything to add, by the way, to anything that's been said so far?
No, I definitely agree with Juan. I thought the Room and Spirit of Time was hyperbolic time chamber was really unnecessary, to be honest. Like, it does kind of mess up the power scaling even more. They should have just kept training in that dimension, as they call it in the anime. And yeah, I really aside from Toriyama's comments, I can also understand Juan's point of view with if you just cut Toriyama's comment out, it could still be implied that Goku and Vegeta could possibly be stronger, although I think it's more so leaning on the side that they're weaker than Beerus. But yeah, I mean, apart from that, I don't really have any comments on that stuff.
I mean, what else can they do, bro? 3 years in the Room of Spirit and Time? 3 years?
I feel like after 3 years, honestly, Goku and Vegeta should be well past Beerus, considering, you know, they were training with Whis as well prior to that. You know, it's just they've done. I think they've done too much to warrant them not training with. I mean, surpassing Beerus. And the other thing that kind of always irks me, as stupid as a line of it is, it's still in this anime, and you can't ignore dialogue. It's fucking dialogue from the show. You know, Beerus flat out stated that Vegeta got angry and pushed him to 10% of his power, 1/10. And you can't, as stupid as that line is, I'm never going to say it's not a bad line. It is a really bad line.
It's a horrible line.
It's still there. It's
not
still
just
in the
that.
dialogue.
Let's not keep mentioning that 10% line, because I have a whole bunch of arguments, and I don't want to go on that tangent right now.
One thing I will say though, not just about that, but I do want to bring this up, is the Goku versus Beerus fight in the anime when they're clashing against the universe also did a tremendous amount of damage to the power scaling of the series, because
yes.
You know, I understand the whole concept of, okay, SS God SS, right? As Super Saiyan Blue, you can keep your ki inside of you, so you prevent things like that from happening. I totally get that. Only problem is when you have the Kaioken on top of it, there's all this collateral damage. And I'm thinking, okay, if you stack, there's God, SS Blue, which is more powerful, and then Kaioken stacked on top of that, I don't know how the hell the universe didn't just implode based on the power scaling from the Goku-Beerus fight. It's just, I don't get it.
Well, Danny, if I would have just had one small quick comment to that, that's why I always find it so hard to believe when Beerus is still stronger than Goku. But it's like, if Goku fought Beerus and Beerus used 70%, if Beerus is still stronger than Goku, and with all this Super Saiyan Blue, with all this Kaioken, with all these extra years of training in the hyperbolic time chamber and the cloudy dimension, if Goku still hasn't caught up to him in power, that basically means that if Beerus is still stronger than him, Beerus
He'll never catch up.
That means Beerus was holding back insanely low amounts of power against Goku. He was like completely toying with him.
Look,
that's the only way to explain.
I got a whole bunch. Listen, I'm just going to say this. I mean, we could talk about this for 40 minutes, literally. I have a whole. Yes, that 10% line was stupid, but I have arguments on it. But I don't think we should go on this tangent, because this is a whole freaking 40 minutes.
Well, you're going to do a video
about
it, right?
Probably. Honestly, this 10%, this 10% line comes up so much in our conversations. I am going to make a video on it.
I will.
And honestly, it could be 40 minutes, so I don't think we should go down this road right now.
Give the audience a Cliff Notes version, because I know exactly what Juan's talking about. We won't get into it. Juan thinks Beerus was using lower than 10% of his power, but he could have been using 10% just to be safe. But he definitely was using way less than 10% to beat Vegeta. Way less. He just went 10% to be safe. That's Juan's theory.
That actually kind of makes sense. But again, the problem is, even though that's a good theory, they didn't tell us that. And that's
exactly. That's what I brought up in my review. It's very, very lazy.
Let's not go into this, because I don't think you're gonna make me want to respond.
No. All right, we'll discuss that.
This is the Battle of Gods arc.
Yeah, we'll discuss that in a future video. We will. If you don't do it, well, you will do a video. If not, we'll do it. We'll get back together and talk about it. I want to talk about these fights, not in detail. Like I said, I want to speed through this part of the arc, because we already have individual reviews on every single channel. Quinn, Juan, Jay, me, everybody's got their thoughts. Looking back now, the overall question is, not including Hit, were you disappointed in the Universe 6 fighters? Because with the exception of Magetta, I was very let down. I'm going to start with Quinn on this one. Universe 6 guys, Frost, Kaba, Botamo, Magetta, not Hit. Were you disappointed now that everything's all said and done?
To be completely honest with you, Danny, I've been waiting for this question the entire podcast. And honestly, if you look at it in hindsight, the Universe 6 fighters, and excuse me for my French, kiddies, are the biggest fucking pussies I've ever seen in any major Dragon Ball series arc. And with the exception of Hit, if you think about it, Vegeta literally one-punch manned three characters of the team. Well, I know Magetta, had his whole thing with the heat, but when Vegeta actually got close to him, he knocked him out in one hit. He knocked out Cabba with one hit when he took the fight seriously, and he knocked out Frost with one hit. These characters were hyped up from the beginning to be these awesome characters from the 6 universe, and it's like they're so weak. Botama was easily thrown out of the ring, despite having this ability to like morph his body similar to Janemba. And I was really liking that, Geekdom. We talked about this off the air. I really liked the whole thing with Botamo, because it kind of reminded me of that whole like dimensional warp of his body thought. I thought that was awesome, but they completely misused him, and it's very obvious he was based on Winnie the Pooh, because there's no other gold bear with a red shirt and red shoes. But anyways, moving on from that, we go to Frost. Frost had an excellent concept. I will save this topic for another part of the video if we go back to it, but I was very pissed off with what happened to one of Frost's fights. But ultimately, I thought Frost was an interesting villain, but in hindsight, Goku and Vegeta were toying with these guys so much he was a joke. Magetta, I agree with you, he was interesting, but once Vegeta took the fight seriously, he was a joke too. Cabba was probably the most interesting character outside of them.
Agreed.
But not for being a fighter, but because of the fact that he was another Saiyan that kind of looked up to, Goku
him and
Vegeta's
relationship was fantastic. Right. That was very good stuff.
Yes.
Very good writing.
That's what made his character. But other than that, in terms of power, come on, Cabba was a joke too. So really, in essence, Hit was the only real serious threat in power, and that's what I think makes them all a bunch of fucking pussies. Sorry for my French.
No, I agree with you. I think they're all jobbers. They're jabronis, honestly. I mean, look, dude, I'm not going to go into the Piccolo thing or the Majin Buu thing, because you love Piccolo and I love Majin Buu, and I wanted both these guys to shine at least a little bit. Buu barely even appeared here because he failed the test, and Piccolo was like in one episode doing a move that I don't even know why he even did it for the whole other thing. This was the Goku and Vegeta show, and I've never seen it be so plainly obvious where it's literally Goku and Vegeta by themselves
knocking out the whole team. And I'll just say this really quick.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Geekdom.
No, I'm just going to say, bro, it's just irritating. Go ahead.
With the exception of the little Monaka thing, I just want to point out really quickly that Goku and Vegeta literally knocked out the entire team by themselves.
Yes, they did. And I get it, but I don't think it was necessary. I wanted to at least see a competitive fight, and we didn't get a competitive fight until the Hit fight. Even the Magetta fight, we saw the Final Flash, we saw the Gallic Gun. We didn't even see Vegeta go blue until the Cabba fight. Like, it doesn't make sense. I don't understand why Goku was goofing off golden-haired form, or Vegeta when they could have gone to SS Blue and one-shotted all these fucking pussies and just gotten the Hit. Yeah. Why would you do that? It makes no logical sense. It was like, and then you would think, okay, well, they're holding back power. We all had our theories. They're holding back power, this and that. And then, oh no, well, God Ki can be, you can control God Ki. Okay, fine, great, wonderful, nice. But then we see it at the end, we see the Kaioken. I just thought if Goku would have gone blue, he would have one-shot at Frost, one-shot at freaking, well, I don't know about Botamo, he's the big mystery here. Gotten rid of Cabba. Goku would have probably won this whole tournament by himself if he had gone blue.
And honestly,
Geekdom, go ahead.
I was just going to say really quick, Geekdom, I don't want to overtalk, but I just feel like what really made these fighters so weak is that they were hyped up to be like the strongest fighters of Universe 6, and they were so weak in comparison to Goku and Vegeta. And another thing I'll just say really quickly about Goku and Vegeta, you were saying how they were trying to save energy and stuff, and the one problem I had is that technically, if you think about it, if they just powered up and One Punch Man every single character.
And I said that from the beginning. Sorry, go ahead.
Exactly. If they just literally knocked everybody out, then they wouldn't have wasted any energy. They were actually wasting energy, and Goku actually took a loss to Frost because he was holding back, and that's all I have to say.
It's fucking stupid. Black and Fist, number one. Do you have any defense to this? Number two, your thoughts on the Universe 6 fighters, were they a disappointment to you? And the fights overall?
I don't understand this Magetta love, because I think that I found him very boring. Magetta, I didn't have high expectations of. The only character, I guess I have, I have so many thoughts. All right, the only two characters I had high expectations of were Hit and Kabe. Kabe disappointed me, although I think he was stronger in terms of character and his fight of the parts. Frost honestly did not disappoint me, because I honestly got as much as I thought he was going to be, and honestly, it's not the greatest, but I thought for what he was good. These fights, these characters, they're good. I don't know who that is.
Tom with the Winnie the Pooh looking
No, no,
one?
no, 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 no. I don't know who that is. These fights, these characters, they're
The Amir
good in
Khan.
isolation. They're good in isolation. Like for instance, Winnie the Pooh goes up there and jobs. In other past tournaments, we've always had this. The one that comes to mind for me was that I forgot his name. He was that He was like that film movie guy with the afro that Goku fought in the 22nd tournament in the
Pompet.
first round. Pompet, yeah,
Pampa,
exactly.
yeah.
So Winnie the Pooh is a new Pompet. That's fine. That's cool. That's good. In isolation, it's good to have maybe the Kabe moment. That was a good moment. With Kabe learning how to transform into Super Saiyan, and maybe against having some respect for Vegeta. The Magetta fight was honestly, it was okay. It was whatever. The Frost thing with Vegeta and everything, they're all good in isolation, but when you put them together,
That's what we're doing, yeah.
this is what really, when you put, what I'm trying to say is, okay, that's fine. Winnie the Pooh's the jobber. But when most of that team is jobbers, it loses that point. When Kabe, is so weak, but I guess that would have been profound if the other team members were stronger. If Frost was more of a threat, if Magetta, well, I guess Magetta was somewhat of a threat, but I still think he wasn't enough. If the other team members were so much stronger, it would have been so much more profound. In fact, it would have been way more profound, the Kabe moment. The fact that he isn't as strong, the fact that his Super Saiyan transformation, he learns it right there on the spot. But what diminishes Kabe's moment, what diminishes Winnie the Pooh's jobbing, what diminishes these characters is that these fights, they're they're just for one thing, general thing, they're too short.
They don't compare at all to any of the other tournaments, dude. We
And
had
there's not a
drama,
sense. There is not a sense of them being threatening. By the time I think by the time that Vegeta stepped up there, the threats were all gone. Like any doubt of threat until hit, pretty much. Whatever.
Yeah.
They got this.
Yeah.
It's like, was anyone really like? That's why I feel the Magetta fight had barely any drama, because we knew that to me, I knew that Vegeta was holding back in the tank. It was clear because he hadn't transformed into his blue form. So, to me, that it sapped tension. Absolutely sapped tension. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No. Well.
Same with.
Yeah.
And with Kabe, once again, that moment was diminished because the other team members are so weak.
Well, and I still think that if they fought outside the rules, that they probably would have won. Universe 6 would have, because of the fact that Frost had the poison dart. They wouldn't have found out about it and disqualified him. He would have knocked Goku out with the quickness. Botamo, we don't even know how strong he really is. And then Hit would have been able to whoop. Hit by himself could whoop Piccolo, Goku, and Vegeta. I mean, if he was able to go all out. We know that already. So it's almost as if they did the tournament right, but they were afraid. I'm going to use wrestling terminology. They were afraid to put anybody really over. So what they did was they turned it into a joke, into a clown show. That's the way I saw it. They were afraid to have Goku and Vegeta look weak, but they were also afraid to have the Universe 6 guys look too weak, so they protected them. For example, Goku eliminating Botamo via ring out. That's protecting them. But at the same time, they buried Frost, and they kind of buried Kaba somewhat. I mean, he had the best development.
I disagree with that, because the Universe 6 fighters besides Hit all looked really weak. I don't think they were protected at all.
But if there were no tournament rules and Frost hits Goku with that poison dart, he's out. He's out. That's it. So he's out.
Oh.
Hit takes out Vegeta. Botamo takes out Boo. Fucking Frost maybe takes out Piccolo, or Hit can take out Piccolo. They would have lost if it wasn't for the rules. It's almost as if they made the rules to kind of excuse them from losing. So the whole thing became a big clown show, and then at the very end, we get a serious fight, and that turns into a fucking clown show. So really, when I look back on this arc was a disappointment. But I'm going to go to Jay, because Jay hasn't said anything for a while. Not Hit yet, but the other four guys, what do you think?
by the way, the rules are bullshit because
they
one
change
thing
them
that
all
did
the time
piss me
too.
off-
By the way,
No, yeah, exactly. Because Goku got to come back, but why didn't Piccolo?
well, Piccolo
I mean,
forfeited.
well, still,
Mhm.
I still think that it was dumb. I still think it was dumb for him to do that. And
Well, it was dumb for the writing wise. Guys, for those listening to this video, this is not about your favorite character. We're talking about actual writing. It was a way for them to conveniently write Piccolo out. And I'm just thinking, why'd you even put him in there? Like, why'd they even have Boo show up? Like, the whole thing was just like, it was the Goku and Vegeta show, and the other three guys were jokes. All right, now, Jay, what do you think about all this?
As the fights were happening, I enjoyed them, but in hindsight, when you look at it as a bigger picture,
That's what we're doing, yeah.
it was rather disappointing, and it's very easy to ride the hype train when people do their reviews. You're like, oh, that was awesome, and in hindsight, there is still good elements to the tournament I enjoyed. The best character, hands down, out of that team is Hit, like without a doubt. So you can fuck off, you people who say I'm a Vegeta fanboy. Go eat a bag of cocks, you fuckheads. Oh yeah, what's that? He beat Vegeta,
I'm a Gohan
and yet he's my
fanboy.
yeah, he's my. Oh, what's that? What's that? Hit's my favorite out of this team. Yet he was the one that knocked out Vegeta. But I'm a Vegeta fanboy. You fucking dickheads.
Even if the thing is,
Um,
Vegeta did very well. It's just that,
Yeah.
I thought that, and that was fine. Go ahead.
Yeah.
You go.
So Hit's my favorite character, hands down. The dynamic between Vegeta and Kaba was very well done. And to be honest, in terms of character development being the key words here, that fight was the best because it had good character development for Vegeta, had good character development for Kaba, and they are definitely hinting at Kaba returning. And I hope all of these characters returning get used. Frost was very interesting with the switch and bait of him being good and then evil. That was a great element. So a lot of the ideas they had in this tournament were very, very strong. Again, with Super, it's the execution that lets it down. They tweak things and they change things with the writing, and it just doesn't work to its strength. I'm definitely happy that Hit won. No, not because I hate Goku. The reason I'm happy Hit won is because he was built up to be Universe 6's strongest fighter. So for him to beat the two strongest fighters of Universe 7's team, even though Goku wrung himself out, it made logical sense to me because he was their best fighter and he was built up to be a major threat. So I was definitely happy that Hit got to beat Vegeta and Goku. And Goku did say that he pretty much lost that fight anyway. So I definitely enjoyed some of the ideas. But all in all, I would say 2 out of the 5 fights were great, and then the rest were pretty meh and forgettable. And I do think that they should have used Majin Buu. I do think that Piccolo should have been used properly. I do like that Piccolo was at least given the line that Frost would have lost had the Makunko support made contact with him.
Yeah.
But they definitely you got to give Piccolo fans some fan service. And I will say Gohan as well. They did build Gohan up to be fighting in the future, and they still haven't done anything with that, which we'll get to later, which I'm disappointed by as well. So the major disappointment out of this was the weak part, which was Goku and Vegeta were the only characters being used, and that's the biggest problem.
Yeah, and I just want to say about the Piccolo thing is that's another thing I'm talking about. How they said, oh well, the Makanko Sapo could have killed Frost or beat him. That's a line to protect these guys. Like they were afraid to have somebody genuinely lose, with the exception of Frost, I think, and Kaba. Like they were afraid. And it's crazy because, without a doubt, okay, Toriyama, when he was writing Dragon Ball back in the 80s, he was a genius. I'm going to say it when it came to booking these tournaments. Because every tournament, 21st, 22nd, 23rd Budokai made sense. It all made sense. Goku, Jackie Chun. Goku loses to Tenshinhan in the second tournament. Then he beats him in the rematch in the third one, goes on to face the son of the Demon King. Like, just masterful, just incredible storytelling. They wrapped up the Tenshinhan arc with Tao Pai Pai. They had the thing where they put Tien over by having him break Yamcha's ankle. Like, all these great, like, brilliant writing here. And we saw none of it in this fucking tournament, with the exception of the Kaba stuff. So let's talk about Goku versus Hit. Okay, real quick. We saw some great moments here. Best animation, fight-wise, I think we've seen ever. Hit running in there, just hammering Goku was great. Goku doing the Kaioken. Masako Nozawa did amazing in that scene. It was old school with her screaming. I wonder how Shenmue's going to do it when it gets dubbed. I'm very curious about it. I thought it was great how he just flew up and just, nailed hit. It was like back in the Vegeta saga when Goku does the Kaioken and is fighting Vegeta. And it's just muscular, just badass shit. I thought all that was great. Like the moment, the badassness of it was great. Now that I'm looking back, though, I thought the fight was too short, number one. Number two, Goku's reasons for throwing himself out or whatever were dumb because he just is now realizing that, oh, they're using me. Let me throw myself out. And then also, we later find out that, well, and me and Black have talked about this, that Goku's body was already burnt out when it comes to the Kaioken, right? He said this. But then Black made a good point. He's like, well, didn't he want to keep fighting? Didn't he want Hit to go all out? Like, there's so much inconsistent writing here that it just really, when you look at this whole arc, it's everywhere. And it's bad. It's bad. So, let's talk about Goku Hit and the finale with Monaka. I'm going to start with Black and Fist this time, okay? Your thoughts on the fight, your thoughts on the elimination of Goku and Hit, and your thoughts on Monaka. I personally thought the Monaka thing was cute, but I thought it was also a fuck job. I think they invested us for, I don't know how many episodes, 11 episodes or so, 11, 12 episodes, I don't know how long it was, and they didn't really give us a full, or 14 episodes, a full conclusion. What do you think?
The Monaka thing is, I think, was ruined because I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, Monaka was hinted at being weak in the previous episode before in a previous episode before he actually fights.
Yes.
Or gets in the ring, which actually kind of ruined. I honestly don't have a problem with Monaka being weak. I think that he could still be interesting. The problem with that whole moment of him knocking Hit out and being weak and everything is that it's not a revelation. It's not a surprise because they already said it in the previous episode. So they kind of ruined that moment. That one line that we said, I forgot in what episode, completely ruined that moment. So
you thought they gave it away too soon.
It ruined that moment completely. It would have been much better if we went in without knowing nothing, and we would have been speculating everything. And then, honestly, the impact, the freak of that moment would have been much. It would have been felt. You know what I mean? As for the fight,
yeah, the fight.
As for the fight, I think the fight with the tournament and how it was going. Honestly, I don't think the fight itself was too short. Maybe it could have been a bit longer. I wouldn't have complained if it was a bit longer. But I obviously I think it's the best fight in the whole tournament. The biggest complaints I can have about that fight is that there's some weird things that Goku says in the end when he gets knocked out. That's the only complaints that I can really give, is because Goku is really honestly, with his dialogue, is being inconsistent. He's saying that he wants Hit to go all out, and then he requests Beerus and Champa to remove the rules.
That's right.
To me, that implies that Goku's also holding back.
That's right. And then afterward, he just burns out. So in those 10 seconds when Beerus and Champa were arguing, because if they would have let this actually play out, like for another, 10 minutes, then I can understand, okay, brother, you're burnt out with the Kaioken, you're holding the form for too long. It was like 2 minutes. Fuck you. Fuck this fucking shit. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that was very inconsistent writing, which I don't even know what to believe in that moment, honestly, now. But the thing is, I'm losing my train of thought.
Let's talk about the fight, the Hit Goku fight. Your thoughts on the outcome and on the fight itself. You were saying that you thought you would have been okay if it was a little bit longer.
Yeah, it would have. If it was just a little bit longer, but Jeez, I was gonna say something, man. I completely
we'll go back to it if you want. We'll go to Quinn.
Yeah, go to Quinn. I completely just went blank right now. I was gonna say something and I just don't know what it is.
For once, I'll say, if you remember, just interrupt. Just this once, interrupt. Quinn.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say about the whole Goku versus Hit fight. Honestly, it kind of reminded me of several elements of Dragon Ball that we've seen before. The first element that it reminded me of is the fact that you remember when Hercule fought against, Android 18 and the tournament, and he basically bribed her into saying, I'm going to give you a whole bunch of money if you let me win this fight to protect his reputation. They kind of twisted this for the sense of Manaka. But interestingly enough, I found it was funny that like Hit kind of gave up in the same way, kind of out of respect for Goku. And I felt that that kind of reminded me of the Mr. Satan thing. And in essence, it also kind of reminded me, Geekdom, and we talked off the air about this, of Goku's fight with Tien. And the reason why is because, you know, Goku and Tien had this big fight. And interestingly enough, Tien was like an assassin working for Suru Senin, the Crane Hermit, or Master Shen. And pretty much the interesting thing about this is that Goku's fight with him kind of changed the way Tien looked at him, which is why I feel like we don't know everything about Hit, but that might change his personality in the future. And the last thing it reminded me of was obviously the fact that when Goku faced against Cell during the Cell games, he pretty much gives up against him. And I felt that that was kind of something that took, you know, a lot of pieces of what this whole Dragon Ball Super arc was. Now, in terms of the whole Manaka thing,
well, I just want to say Goku gave up because he knew he couldn't win.
Yeah, but I'm saying it still kind of reminded me of Cell because Goku usually doesn't give up.
Well, and like I've said before, I just want to say, because people are going to comment bullshit on this. Goku doesn't give up fights that he knows he can win. So obviously he knew he couldn't be Hit. But that goes back to Black and Fist's point. If he knew he could not win, why would he allow the rules to be taken down and for Hit to use his death moves when he could have fucking died? And it's dumb.
It's funny you're saying that, Geekdom, because you actually made me think of another extra point, how that reminds me of the Cell games, kind of like the opposite. Because you remember, Danny, when Goku was fighting Cell, Cell actually blew up the ring so that they could, you know, have like a more hands brawl. But in this instance, it's like they were constrained by the ring, and I felt that was kind of interesting. So those are my thoughts on the fight. And just to point out really quickly, the Manaka thing, it kind of just irritated me, but it was okay because it was Toriyama's writing style, where like you're expecting this big awesome clash between Goku and Hit, you're getting the clash, and then, you know, Toriyama's like, you know what, I'm just gonna make this weakling win by like the most default thing ever. And that was an anti-cliche way of ending the story, which I give it some credit for, even though I didn't like how it ended.
Well, what I didn't like, before we go to Juan real quick, is that Hit's motivations change way too quickly. I love in Dragon Ball how Goku has the ability to make people who are like, you know, mad or angry or bad turn good. He's done it with several people. He just has that character. I thought this was not played up enough. I thought that Hit wanted that cube more than anything. We never found out why he wanted the cube. Not even a single line about why he wanted the cube. And then when he threw himself out, a guy who was motivated to destroy everybody, all of a sudden he's all, oh, well, I don't really care about winning anymore. Just take me home. Like, I don't understand that. I don't get that. I thought that Hit's character, and again, it all goes back to what we talked about earlier, the bad foreshadowing. They give you clues that something's going to happen, like with Hit and the cube and all that, and the payoff never lives up to what you think. And I'm the kind of guy who, if I go see a movie, and if the movie doesn't match up what I want, I don't get mad because, you know, just because I had my own headcanon doesn't happen in the movie doesn't mean that, you know, it's right. Civil War, for example, I went into that movie with an idea of what was going to happen, and they exceeded my expectations. Here, they're foreshadowing things and not delivering on the fucking foreshadowing, and it happens again and again and again and again and again. So we're probably not going to see Gohan come back. We're probably not going to see Vegito come back. We're probably not going to see a new villain that's stronger than everybody. I just don't have faith anymore in that happening. Black and Fist, what were you going to say, bro?
Well,
and then we'll go to Jay.
One positive thing that I have, because I actually do genuinely like the Goku versus Hit fight more than I dislike it. I think it's actually a good fight. I enjoyed it. And one thing that I will say, that during that fight, it was the only fight in this tournament. Actually, quite honestly, it was the only thing in Dragon Ball Super altogether, this one fight, that made me feel like I was watching Dragon Ball. Like I was watching Z again.
I agree.
It was that type of feeling. I don't know exactly how to put it into words, but that's how great it was, in my opinion.
But Juan, bro, one episode out of 42?
Hold on. That's true. But this fight, well, it was pretty much the whole fight. I think this fight was for more than
two episodes out of 42.
It was like 2 episodes.
Still not a good ratio.
The fight felt like Dragon Ball, but I will say one thing, and I think this applies to the whole tournament. The rules, I think, constrained the greatness of what possibly could have been this fight. The whole structure of a tournament. See, it's a good thing that Quinn brought up the Cell games, because eventually they did away with the rules, because these characters, they're beyond that. To really to really absorb the drama, we need to go all out. And I feel that I think that that's the way it was for the whole tournament, but especially in this fight. In this particular fight, I feel that we weren't getting everything. We weren't getting everything of Goku, and we know for a fact we weren't getting everything a hit. I feel like, I just don't know. This is more of a questioning of a tournament structure where there's rules, there's ring outs, there's you can't do this and that. I think it just limits the fight opportunities, honestly.
And that's another reason why I don't want another tournament so soon. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I don't know. Jay?
Thoughts on Goku vs. Hit?
Goku vs. Hit and the conclusion.
Goku vs. Hit was a great fight. And in terms of fighting, overall, I think it was probably the best fight in the tournament. I don't think anyone can really deny that. And people definitely misunderstood me in my review. I just felt the execution was really poor. Just simple lines like Goku lecturing Frieza in the previous arc about Frieza having bad stamina, and how he should quit the fight. Yet Goku states in the episode 39, I think it was, 38, sorry. Goku states in episode 38, I don't want to use Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan yet because it has bad stamina. That doesn't make any sense. So the dialogue in this
Resurrection F completely.
The dialogue in this fight was fucking atrocious at times. The way Goku gets through hits Tokutobashi makes absolutely zero sense, because he can't, even if he's using Kaioken times 10, Hit is legitimately freezing time. So when Goku says your Tokutobashi has no effect on me, it makes no sense. Even if he's improving. He's saying that basically what he's saying is that Hit's not freezing time anymore, because what Goku was doing prior to that was predicting where Hit's movements were coming from. But now he's just saying, your Tokutobashi has no effect.
Because Kaioken times 10 actually made him faster than the time skip, which doesn't make any sense either.
It doesn't make sense. You can't skip a time skip when time is being stopped. The way that works for Hit is that time has stopped for him, and everyone else cannot see what he's doing. Goku can predict, but he can't be that faster that he's skipping a fucking time skip. So that was retarded in itself.
And with that aspect, how can he not beat Beerus? I'm sorry, John, I'm interrupting, but 3 years in the Room of Spirit and Time, and you still have stamina issues?
Plus the cloudy dimension.
And, I
think of Viagra, I don't have any stamina issues, but he's in the Room of Spirit and Time 3 years, and he's got it.
I don't want to get into details, but I will say there is prior inconsistencies with dialogue in previous arcs, with Goku saying that the Kaioken can't be used with Super Saiyan. There is contradictions there, whether people like it or not. So the episode as a whole was just a big mess. Was the fight awesome? Did it feel like I was watching Dragon Ball Z? Yeah, it was great. But I'm not someone who can sit there and turn my brain off and just praise the show because it's my favorite anime. I refuse to do that. I refuse to stoop to those standards, and I really can't stand it when I was getting just absolutely smashed in the comment section by people going, you just obviously are salty that Vegeta lost and Goku is getting time to shine. That was the hardest thing for me to deal about with this fight. It was just, it was Goku fan service, which is absolutely needed, like, because he's the main character. But the way they executed it, I felt was so poor. The fight was awesome, but the execution, again, that's the key word I always use that people seem to forget. The execution simply wasn't there.
Yeah, and for the record, before anybody leaves a stupid fucking comment or unsubscribes for whatever reason because they don't like the show being criticized, the entire point of this is that it's being criticized by people who have been fans of this franchise for the majority of their life. So, and I don't want to come off like that guy, but you better fucking do your homework and really fucking be at a top level of knowledge to even question what we're saying right now. Because, no, I mean that, because people are going to get in there and say that we don't like this and that. But the reality is Dragon Ball Super is Dragon Ball and Toriyama's involved. Now, the standards, Dragon Ball is not fucking, a Machiavellian fucking Sun Tzu, The Art of War, brilliant literature, okay? But there's still a certain standard. And Super, to me, is not reaching the standards of Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. That's my opinion.
there's a saying that I always bring in. People always say to me, "Oh, Dragon Ball's always had problems. Just deal with it." And I say to
Not
them,
this
"Well,
many.
no,
Not
no,"
this many.
because I say to those people, "Well, if you're happy to be served shit, then keep eating your shit. I want something better." That's what I
Toriyama
say
has
to
to
those
get shit
people.
on their face for them to get mad.
Yeah.
Like Xeon said. All right, I want to get everybody's final thoughts here, okay, on this arc. Well, I'll just say this, okay. Black and Fist and I were talking the other day off air about how this arc would not be so criticized if it was the first arc in the series, because essentially the arc ends with the Omni King showing up and saying, okay, I want to do a bigger tournament, and they're building to that. If this tournament was done to build to that, I somewhat understand. The problem is that there's 2 other arcs before this that, to me, it's like we're in episode 42 and nothing is still being taken that seriously. Frieza was not that serious of a threat because Beerus was there and he can't fuck with Beerus. Beerus himself was a threat, but it didn't make any sense scaling wise with what's going on now. The whole show, Dragon Ball Super, I enjoy watching this show. I really do. I love Dragon Ball more than almost anybody, but I feel disappointed.
Not more than me.
Well, we're going to get to that. I feel disappointed that we are 42 episodes into this series, which is, by the way, a lot of anime don't even make it to fucking 27 or 30 episodes. We're at episode 42, and we're still doing the whole, let's hold out hope for something better. Let's wait and see if it gets better. Gohan fans want Gohan to be prevalent. Piccolo fans want for Summer Piccolo to do. Vegeta fans want him to surpass Goku. People want Vegito. People want this. People want that. People want all these things, and it's like, okay, well, we're going to give it to you. Here's a little, they're giving us food. Dangling a carrot, oh, it's coming, this is coming, this is coming. I'm tired of coming. I never thought I would say this. I am tired of coming, all right? I never thought I'd say that, all right? So it's like fucking hurry up and deliver something of high quality. I'm sorry, that's just how I feel. I'm going to start with Jay this time, all right? Jay, your final thoughts on this arc now, looking back, the whole thing.
I'm going to get some hate for saying this, but I really don't care because I'm not the most liked YouTuber anyway. But I will say that all in all, yeah, I know you. Well, my friends like me. That's the thing. People just make assumptions about you in the comment section, unfortunately.
And just for the record, just want to say one quick thing. Jay has spent more money on Dragon Ball.
Oh, yeah.
Than probably all of us have in his life. Okay, I'm being real about that. I spent some money, Juan. Quinn, probably not Quinn, but a lot of us have spent money on Dragon Ball, right? Jay has spent a lot. It's not that Jay's not. It's that you want it to be better, and it's bad fucking writing. You don't fucking foreshadow shit and then not deliver it.
Danny,
it's bad.
Sorry to interrupt, but should we also mention that final thing with the wish and the dragon?
Oh yeah, we completely skipped that, man.
We do you want to talk about that? I mean, okay.
Yeah, I think that's pretty important.
All right, go ahead, bro. Mind. You know what, Jay? Is it okay if he goes first?
Sure.
No, I don't have to go first. I just want to remind you that was an important thing we should discuss.
We'll talk about this if you want, and then we'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll talk about this first, then we'll get to the final thoughts. Okay.
Yeah.
The wish. Beerus wishes for an Earth. Champa could have fucking done it himself, but gods like to fight. Okay, great. I get all that. That's their way of writing themselves out of a corner. I thought it was good development for Beerus, but it did somewhat make the arc a little bit of a waste, but not really. I enjoyed that moment. I thought it was a good moment for Beerus, but there are so many other things that could have happened with the exception of doing the tournament. So, Quinn, what were you going to say? What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, really quickly, I think that the final arc, I thought the wish was pointless, and I can't wait till Juan gets his part to speak about this because he's going to go off. But pretty much I felt the wish was pointless is because it's like, well, you made us invest, 13 episodes of our time to watch this new arc, and they're basically fighting to keep planet Earth, and then you basically use this big wish to summon this big super powerful dragon to wish for Champa to have a planet Earth, and we don't even know anything about that planet Earth. People are already predicting that evil Goku is in that universe of sixes. But the whole point is that the whole planet was gone anyways. There's nobody on it. So the whole point I'm trying to say is, some people were saying Broly went to Universe 6 in that universe.
But the whole stupid.
But the funny thing is, I just felt
if you're saying that, you're fucking stupid. Sorry, go ahead.
Geekdom, I'm just saying, bro, and we talked off the air about this. It just pissed me off that they went through all of that, and the music was fine, the transformation scene was fine, I liked seeing King Zeno. I thought that was a good conclusion, bro. but I just cannot stand that wish. That wish leaves me a very bad taste in my mouth. And I feel like this podcast we're having is slightly turning into a rant now, but that wish, it just... I just can't get over that wish. It just pissed me off. I'm very curious to hear what Black and Fizz has to say.
All right, well, before we go to Black and Fizz, I want to go to Jay real quick, and then Black. I want Black and Fizz to go on last here for this one. Jay, your thoughts on the wish, bro? I thought the summoning was.
I liked it.
Cool.
I liked it. The summoning was great. One of the best visually pleasing elements in Super, if not the best visual thing in Super so far for me. Obviously, the Goku and Hit fight was great visuals too, but. And I won't go on a tangent, just a lot of the little things in Super about the visuals, like even little things like Kaba seeing Vegeta turn into a god through his pupils and then seeing Vegeta disappear, just little things like that.
Good
really
stuff.
Appreciate.
Good stuff.
So the dragon was definitely visually very pleasing. I enjoyed it very much. The wish itself, I felt, gave a great dynamic to the Beerus and Champa aspect, which I mentioned earlier in the video. So all in all, I was really, really happy with the wish. And I do hope that they follow through and go to Universe 6's Earth, Universe 6's Planet Salad. Yeah, I want to see these things. I want to see it come to fruition.
You probably ain't going to see it.
Yeah, so, I mean, like I said, they just could be dangling this carrot, but I hope that they do. I hope that we don't just have a dozen episodes of padding, and then we go, guess what, guys? It's the Omni tournament now. We've got all 12 universes fighting it off.
Multiverse tournament, man.
Multiverse tournament, whatever you want to call it. Some people call it the Omniverse tournament.
I call it the Omniverse tournament.
Yeah,
no,
so
I just do it because it's fan fiction. Because it is.
But
we're gonna get
fair enough.
Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, I can't stand fan fiction, by the way, folks out there. But I will just say that I'm definitely looking forward to what's coming up. But I just hope it's not 12 episodes of padding and then here's the tournament. This is the conclusion. I want them to spend 20, 30 episodes. I don't care. Go explore Universe 6. One of the best things Dragon Ball can do at this point to make people fall in love with it all over again is build on its lore. If they're introducing all these elements with Universe 6's Earth coming back, Planet Salad, go explore those locations. Go explore them, because if you go and explore them, you will make your old fans happy and you will bring new people into the franchise. So I think the wish is a great wish because of the dynamic between Beerus and Champa, and it definitely shows that Beerus cares about Champa somewhat. He may not be the nicest guy, he's a bit of a fucking douche, but he does at least care a little bit about Champa. And I just hope that they do explore those places, because then it will make the wish even better.
All right, Black and Fist, bro, you have problems with this wish, bro.
I think a lot of people misunderstood me, but okay. Obviously, there's the obvious reasons that if by the way, someone told me that Champa didn't have all 7 Dragon Balls and that's why he didn't do it. Well, I just like to point out that if he had 6 of them, if he was capable of collecting 6 of them, you really think he couldn't find one more?
And Whis and Vados knew that the planet was the last one anyways.
Yes. So anyway, I do believe that the wish at the end completely undermines this whole arc. Now, I understand there's a philosophy that goes out there that is, it's not the destination, it's the journey. Well, how was the journey? The journey wasn't exactly stellar. You understand? The tournament wasn't exactly, I don't think the tournament was terrible, but it wasn't exactly stellar. So if we're going to go by the philosophy of it's not the destination, it's the journey, that journey better be pretty good. And the destination better not lead us right back at the start, which I think the wish did. I think that there's also another thing. People, honestly, when I said that the tournament was pointless, they were implying that I somehow didn't understand that, go Black and Fist, don't you know that it's about the character development that Goku and Vegeta and Hit got? I understand. I understand that there could be character development. I'm not denying that. I don't even think it's very much, to be honest with you. It's not very much. Like, most of it happens in one fight. It's not very much. But what my point is, we don't have to have a pointless story, a pointless arc just for character development. We could have had a much more productive story, a story that meant more, instead of having it be a little bit undermined at the end. That's all I'm saying. I'm just saying that Toriyama probably could have thought of something more, something that could have advanced the world, something that could advance the plot much better than just a tournament where everything could have been literally resolved at episode 28.
Well, not just that.
So and I'm going to call into question Champa's character, because this is another one of my problems. If Champa really wanted that Earth, why didn't he wish for it? Now, there's two objections to this. One, he's dumb. I understand he's dumb. Okay, fine. That's the character thing. But I don't think a character trait like that should hinge on the entire arc maybe being undermined, because Champa's character of being dumb potentially undermines the entire arc like it did. So in that case, what should happen is Vados should tell Champa, hey, Champa, you could wish for the Earth if you really want it. There you go. That way the whole arc is not undermined. That way we don't have this problem. The other problem is, of course, maybe they just, Beerus and Champa just secretly are having a little dick measuring contest.
That's what's implied, yeah.
Which fine, I guess that's what's happening. Once again, we don't have to have a pointless dick measuring contest. Now, do we? I mean, I think that we can have a dick measuring contest that has a lot more meaning, that where we get to that we don't end up right back at the start. That's all I'm saying. And as for Super Shenron, he was great.
I thought he was great too. Great. Yeah. I just want to say something. My main problem with Super, before we get out of here, I want to get everybody's final thoughts here, is when Battle of God's Arc came out, everybody was like, well, it's okay because this gives them a chance to fix the Resurrection F arc. Fine. Resurrection F arc winds up being worse than the movie. Well, no, it's fine. It's fine because we have a new arc coming up with Champa, and look at these cool new characters. Oh, Jay swore up and down Monaka was going to be this badass. Didn't happen, even though it was teased. Gohan, this and that, all this stuff, okay? Then the tournament ends up being a setup for a later. Or so the series is constantly dick teasing you. Oh, well, don't worry, it's going to get better. It's going to get better. It's going to get better. 42 fucking episodes. For God's sakes, get better. It's time to get better now. 42 fucking episodes, almost a year. We are almost at a year. For fuck's sake and God and holy Jesus, get better. Please get better. Take it seriously. Jay, what were you going to say earlier, bro? Wrap up the thoughts here.
Yeah, no, look, okay. I like Super, but it could be a hell of a lot better. I'm not going to sit here and be a fanboy and defend lazy, fucking blatant, inconsistent writing and dialogue. If other people want to do that they are well within their right to do that, and I think that's why people misunderstand me when they think I'm censoring my comment section. Don't try and change my point of view, because I think that this series as a whole hasn't been that great. It's had very, very good moments, but as a whole, would I still rather, like I said, I'd still rather watch Battle of Gods, Resurrection of F. And I do agree with Juan, one of the biggest mistakes they did was retelling the movies. More and more when I look at it in hindsight, massive mistake. Absolutely massive mistake, because I would much rather even now watch the movies. The series did better things, even, I'll get to the point of the Champa arc, but the series has done better things with certain aspects of the movies, but I'd still rather watch the movies. This arc in general, definitely executed well at times, but for the most part, I would say 70% of the execution is poor. And in terms of storytelling and the direction the story is going in, Super is digging itself into a hole. It really is. And yes, there is still a lot more to come yet, but it keeps creating more and more inconsistencies with the story, whether people want it to or not. At this rate, the only way Super is going to make sense, and yes, I'm well aware it's not finished yet, is if they write past the ending of Z and completely retcon, and yes, again, I can use that word, completely change and retcon the ending of Z. Completely. That's the way it's heading. I'm not saying that's the way it's going to go, but the only way they can really make some of this stuff in Super make sense is if they do that. And I'm not really sure that's what I want. And it's for those reasons, more and more again, I look at it in hindsight. Sometimes I just prefer, I'm not saying the entire series, but just in terms of the direction that they went, GT had some great ideas. With that, the execution wasn't it wasn't great as well, but at least it was consistent storytelling for the most part. It didn't create that many problems.
Well,
GT's
and that's
not
because
perfect.
it takes place after Z.
Yeah,
versus,
and that is
yeah.
you are 100% right there. No one can argue otherwise.
They could stretch their legs.
So
yeah,
Super at this rate is just digging itself into a hole, and I still have an inkling of faith, but I'm not going to go around telling everyone that this series is going to get better, because that's just not the sort of person I am, and I'm not going to sit here and defend the show when it's doing things wrong.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
I can't. I have too much self-respect, to be honest, and I know that might sound a bit egotistical, but I'm not going to sit here and just accept mediocrity. If other people want to accept mediocrity with their fucking storytelling, you can do it. You're entitled to, but don't fucking dare sit there and tell me to accept it, because I will tell you to get fucked. So I just think that this series really has a lot of room for improvement, and I'm hoping that they deliver on it, because I would say that it's like 30% really, really awesome, mind-blowing stuff, but the rest of it's just like really bad execution.
And the new characters are great too. It's just like, you're right, the execution of the new characters.
There's so many glimpses of Toriyama's great fucking humor and writing, but I feel like with the limited amount of resources we've had and time we've had with it, I still feel like Toyotaro's manga captures Toriyama's work 10 times better than this anime. 10 times better. And I don't care what anyone says. No one can change my mind on that. Just little things like Toyotaro drawing the tournament in an Egyptian theme. I can't get over that sort of shit. Toyotaro gets the way Toriyama writes his manga, and the Super manga for me is more enjoyable than the anime. Even now, I get more excited for the anime for the manga chapters than the anime, even though it's behind the anime now.
All right, fair enough. Now, I'm going to go to Juan next. You have always defended Dragon Ball, right? You have raised the sword for Dragon Ball. And I also have defended Dragon Ball. It's not just you. I just feel like 42 episodes in, bro, it's like I can't sit here and tell people, oh, it's going to get better when it hasn't yet. It's gotten a little bit better, but it hasn't gotten to the quality I'm looking for. So what do you think about the arc and all that stuff?
Call me crazy fanatical, but I still have hope for Super.
Well, me too.
It's kind of weird, because I think the biggest flaw with this arc is the previous two arcs. I think you know where I'm going.
I agree.
I think that, and it's just rears the previous two arcs. The movie retellings keep rearing their ugly head, and quite honestly, I thought it was over with at this point. But it's not, because this arc, I think if this arc was presented as the beginning of Super.
Yeah, you're talking
even
about
with all its flaws. I'm not
14
excusing,
and not 42.
Yeah, I'm not excusing their flaws. Even with all the flaws, it would have been taken much better. I think that having the arc start so late in Super, where it just seems like things are getting off the ground with this kind of stuff, and quite honestly not executed to the best of its abilities, I think that that's really making it suffer, honestly. Overall, I think the arc is okay. And I'm not trying to create an excuse for this tournament. Obviously, the only reason I'm even thinking this is because the arc wasn't stellar. It wasn't great. I don't think it was terrible. I just think it was okay.
What about in comparison to Dragon Ball from back in the day?
It's definitely, if this was an arc from a Dragon Ball from back in the day, it would definitely be a so-so arc, in my opinion. I don't think it would have been something that we would have looked at. I honestly don't think it would have been bad. I just think it would have been something that we would have looked at as some thing that we would have thought, oh, that was so-so. As for Super, it was okay. And honestly, the biggest problem with it is that it comes after 2 straight movie retellings, honestly. Of course, if let's just say the Universe 6 arc was amazing and spectacular, I will acknowledge that I would not be saying this, because if it was amazing and spectacular, it doesn't matter what came before it, right?
Yeah.
But I acknowledge that, but it still hurts it. It still hurts it that it comes straight after these 2 movie retellings.
Quinn, bro, you're closing this out, man. You're usually kind of lenient too, but what do you think?
Yeah, pretty much geeked them. I've been thinking as you guys were saying your thoughts, and in essence, let me just point out really quickly that if you guys watch our reviews week by week, it might seem kind of surprising that we're saying all of this stuff because Geekdom and I tend to have usually positive things to say about Super. But the interesting thing about this podcast is that we're looking at Super in hindsight. So it might seem like I'm being positive in a lot of my reviews, but in essence, I'm taking an amalgamation of a little piece of each negative thing from each episode, and then we're all throwing all the good and the bad together. And ultimately, when you look at this arc, it just feels like it was a waste of time because of that wish. And like I said before, I don't want to rehash that. But it's just like we the real Dragon Ball fans who have not seen the movies. No, the real Dragon Ball fans who've seen the movies. This is the arc we were waiting for. Everybody was saying, yeah, this Universe 6 arc is coming up. It's no longer retelling and wasting the first 28 episodes of a series to do these movies. We're going to go straight into this arc. And then it's kind of like, well, okay, well, we have all these super weak, characters from Universe 6 that really pose no threat to these guys. And then ultimately we have this,
I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt you. It's a fucking clown show. It's a clown show is what it is. And I like Dragon Ball being wacky and funny, but not all the time. Go ahead.
Yeah. And it just feels like there was no tension. I mean, there were some moments in the fights with tension, but they were holding back the entire time. And I'm not trying to poke fun of another series, but it kind of reminded me slightly of Dragon Ball GT in the sense that Goku, you remember Geekdom in the beginning of Dragon Ball, and you remember too, Super J, and we talk about this all the time. In the beginning of GT, in the beginning of GT, Goku was basically, and even to some degree in the Shadow Dragons arc, he had a lot of moments where he was just fighting guys in his base form for no reason. And as the viewers, you're kind of like, these guys are just toying with them. Like, I can't take this serious. And I think that's what it ultimately was. And honestly, and I'm going to tell you the truth, Danny, I just don't feel like it was worth me waiting 28 episodes to get to this arc, and then I get this. It's like, if you're going to make me wait 28 episodes, which is like 7 months to get to this arc, it's almost been a year now. It's like, well, what am I waiting for,
Yeah, and that's the point. That's why I just said it's been a fucking year, and they've done all these great like reveals and teases and things like that. And it just hasn't delivered. It just hasn't delivered to me. And you guys are agreeing, I guess, with that. So
yeah. If I were to just say one final quick thing, Danny, I would just say that I think because we're also older, all in, our 20s plus, I think that pretty much makes us look at the show a lot differently because we're looking at it with a much older mindset. I think if I was 5 or 10 years old and watching Dragon Ball Super, I wouldn't notice a quarter of the things that I'm noticing with you guys. And I think to some degree, being older has somewhat slipped away a little piece of our excitement for the show because it kind of makes us look for a more mature feeling. I just wanted to put that out.
Well, it made me feel like a kid during the beginning of it, like the intro, and then the Universe 6 stuff with Champa. I felt those feelings again. But again, when you look, like we're talking about what we're doing with this video, when we do the hindsight, when we go back and we look at it from an overall perspective, I feel it is disappointing. I do. And I still like watching it. I still love Dragon Ball. Don't sit there and talk bullshit. I do. It's just, I'm just expecting, and maybe it's my fault for expecting something greater than what we're actually getting. But leave your comments down below, folks. If you sat through an hour and a half of this, thank you. And I think we entertained you pretty well, I would hope. Check out Quaman, Black and Fist, and Super Jaiyan. And I have nothing else to say. Let us know your thoughts on the arc. Was it fun? Most of it was, but are we ever going to go back and watch this again? I can't speak for these guys, but I might watch it again like one other time in my life, but I just don't see myself revisiting this arc or even Super multiple times.
I think I speak for myself, Juan, and Quinn when I say that we'll all watch it again when it. And I don't know about you, Danny, but we'll all watch it again when it gets dubbed. I know.
Sure.
I definitely.
But I'm talking about even more years later. Like I'm talking about after the dub. I'm talking about like 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years because we all still watch Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z and read the manga still to this day. Is it going to be the same for Super? I don't think so. I really don't.
Yeah. In closing, my final thoughts, and just for you guys in the comment section, just do a bit of reflecting on this. Because there's no manga being written before Super, it's almost like they're trying to ad-lib some of this stuff, and I feel like that's where the poor execution comes from. Maybe that's something to think about.
Maybe, but I just feel like 42 episodes, bro. Get your fucking shit together. I've talked about the problems behind the scenes at Toei, and it's making the series less enjoyable than I want it to be. So Thanks everybody for checking out the All Star Talk Dragon Ball, and we'll catch you down the road.